the computer wouldn't hook to it. I'm like, why?
Did the kid? What? So what happened? The kid unplugged the modem?
No, he turned off the power strip.
You got a saboteur on your hands.
Yeah, so he took down the whole house with one button. It's how they roll.
Dude, before we do get into it, where was the first when me and you first met? Were you in Hattiesburg?
No, I was in New Orleans.
So you went from New Orleans straight to Colorado?
Uh-huh.
Was there a third group of people somewhere in the? Did you do two groups of people in Colorado?
Well, yeah, there's the group that I actually met in Mississippi when I was down there for a con. They were from Mississippi, but all lived in Denver.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
And now that I'm here, they live up there, so we do a little bit of work with them as well, ish.
Yeah.
Depending on their availability, because they're ridiculously busy people.
Yeah.
They are dirty with busyness. It's like, y'all have to slow down. I cannot keep up with them. It's almost every weekend they have something, and
I respect it. I also kind of resent it because I am like sporadically busy. I try to stay super motivated all the time, but sometimes I just don't want to do stuff. And it's cool, I guess, to have the freedom. You know, I got my regular 9-to-5 job, but then also like I want to be super productive and super active like I see other people doing it. Sometimes I just want to like sit down and watch a movie and not worry about any of that shit, you know?
Mm-hmm. No, there's definitely times where I'm like, can the world just stop?
Just for a little while. Yeah, for sure.
5 minutes of nothing, but then the children wake up.
Well, I can't even imagine. That's a whole nother thing you've got to juggle, you know, between everything else. Is yeah, man. Yeah, it can be overwhelming, I'm sure. Let's see. I got a little 10 question.
Yeah. Do we want to do just a full-on start over?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And let me pull up I have a small questionnaire. Stupid questions as usual, if I can remember how to pull up my notes. Cool. Greetings. Welcome back to another special edition of the Weekly Pop Movie Podcast. I'm Jeremy, and movies are terrible. I got a very special guest on the line, though, and he's a filmmaker, so his movies are awesome, of course. I'm talking with longtime friend Bryan Oliver, of the creator of Tales of a Broken Reality. Bryan, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, how you doing? Things are good. Trying to stay warm. Editing. That seems to be all my life is. So if it's not for work, it's for my own projects. So that's pretty much what I do. 2015 is when you and I first met. I had just now started my YouTube channel. You had just now kind of started pursuing filmmaking and photography. Literally, both of us were like just in the infantile stages of doing this. I've had the pleasure of you, like, you know, staying in touch with me, shooting me reels or I guess early edits of the series that you're working on. And I've been a big fan of it ever since. I'm not somebody who is myself immersed in the steampunk culture, but I have always thought, like, man, the cosplay's super cool. I like the concept of it, the art, and just the premise of it itself. So that's kind of how you and I met, was in the convention scene, and you kind of being into the world of steampunk. Right.
Synopsis-wise, for people who may not have been keeping up, what is Tales of a Broken Reality? Break it down.
The short version is steampunk, obviously. So you got the science fiction and the Victorian Western stuff. And it's a very different take on the Wizard of Oz gone totally wrong. Mostly focusing on the Tin Man character, but for this last portion that we're doing, you meet his brothers, Dorothy, the whole shebang, the wizard, and you really get more into the Oz portion of the story and into the part about just what a piece of crap Oz himself really is.
Okay, and see, Oz is an element that we haven't seen. Yeah, I haven't ever met Oz, right?
Other than a few little cinematics that were used at the beginning to kind of explain how Tin Man came about, we haven't really seen Oz.
Okay.
and now we're going to see Oz in the flesh, so to speak, and realize that he's really, like, people always have in their head the idea that the witch was a problem. And again, in those cinematics, we learned that the witch had been a problem, and now Oz is, he is the problem.
He's deep in the ass.
Yes, basically the Tin Man, who's been less than an honorable type of character, is realizing that, oh, I gotta stop that guy. Uh-oh, that means I gotta do something good. And he's not good at good. You know, he's very bad at good. And basically his brothers are having to convince him. His brothers are the Lion and the Scarecrow. And they're having to convince him that, no, you've got to pull out all the stops, but we need that bad to fight the bad, sort of the fight fire with fire thing, knowing full well that they don't really have faith in their brother. You know, they would rather kind of send him as the, here, you go be the fodder, and we'll see with whatever happens to you, we'll see if we should try and fight this guy.
Yeah, maybe we'll be able to sweep in and clean up the mess afterwards.
Right.
Yeah, I love it. And when you say it's a reinterpretation, a reimagining of the Wizard of Oz, it certainly is that. There's familiar elements throughout it where you're like, oh yeah, this is a spin on that material, but it's not. The narrative isn't that of the original story.
It's not that story at all. It's some familiarity with the characters, a lot of original characters that are created by other steampunks who make their own thing. A lot of characters where you're like, what now? You know, and there's some characters that I'm like, I know there are going to be people who hate what I have done to a few of the characters. Like Dorothy's character, not heroic. You're not going to root for her. You're not going to root against her. You're just going to, oh, poor kid. You know, like it's. And what's great with that character is, without spoiling what happens to her, basically she pisses off this other character named Scarlet, who's a little girl, just this little kid, who has a penchant for giving lobotomies and things. You know, so like I'm not even the bad one, so to speak. This little girl is way worse at coming up with horrible ways to get her way than my character is at all, you know. And my daughter plays her, and she has a lot of fun just doing this. She has this sort of crazy smile that she does, and the fact that there's all these adults who are like, what do you want us to do? Like, and why are they scared of this little girl? And we delve into that a little bit about, well, what would it take for this, you know, preteen to have so much influence over a whole, you know, carnival of people? And
right.
How did you become the boss? Like, what is going on, you know? And delve into her a little bit as well.
I'm trying to think. I'm trying to tie this into Game of Thrones, as I do with everybody in my life. Lady Mormont, I think, the little queen of.
I've never seen it.
Get out! No, I'm just kidding. It's okay.
I've never seen it. I saw part of the first season and realized that there was just no way we could really watch that at home with the kids.
No.
So we were just like, well, we don't want to have to wait until midnight to be able to watch this. So
understandable. Yeah. And you know what's cool about Tales of a Broken Reality and the steampunk community in general is, like, you had a concept, you have the gear to do it and the drive and everything else, and you can have all of those things, but if you don't have a cast, you don't have a go picture, you know. And that's one of the great things that I've realized is you've had this ability to bring in so many other creative minds and so many other unique personalities and voices, and that have their own characters that they've developed, to have their own costumes. They come with wardrobe and are enthusiastic to participate. And you've worked with several different airships, I think is what how they're referred to.
Yep.
Is that something that you set out to do in the beginning, or is that just kind of a process of necessity?
Not in the way that it has gone. Originally, it set out to be, there was one airship that we were going to use as sort of a cameo, and the rest of it was just going to be me and a couple buddies. But then we realized there's so many of those groups out there and there's so many individual and unique characters that we're like, we can give everybody a shot, you know.
Yes.
Now, since coming to Colorado, we're a lot more selective, if that makes sense. Like, it's no longer just, oh, you've thrown together an outfit, now tell me about, you know. And how do I put this? I used to worry a whole lot about making sure everyone who created their own character got to be exactly what they wanted their own character to be. That's not really good for filmmaking.
Yeah, understandable.
I've reached the point, and for some people it makes me an asshole. For other people, it's they get it and they understand. I've written what I've written, and I need people to play that.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
You know, whether it's good for your character, bad for your character, kicking my ass, having me kick your ass, whatever is going to be happening, whether it's you end up looking dumb or super smart or whatever, it all needs to go with the story. And one of the things that hindered me, especially going from episode 1 to episode 2, was trying to keep everybody happy.
Yeah, of course.
Can't do it. It's not gonna work. It just doesn't, and it hurts the story when you do that. And if you don't have a good story, you don't have a good show.
Well, and that reminds me of, like, as a kid, it's like, yo, you can't be bringing your Thundercats in here with my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I get it. I like Thundercats. They just don't fit in here with this whole thing that I have going on. Go put them with the Thundercats.
Well, the other thing was, how do I put this? Characters can be designed to lose.
Yeah.
And characters need to go through stuff that there needs to be growth, there needs to be learning, there needs to be hardship. And if everybody's character is super awesome, which is fine for them to be, but if everyone has to be presented as the alpha, there's no challenge there. There's no dramatics to it. There's no tension. There's no sense of urgency on solving a problem. You just have immovable objects and unstoppable forces. There's no resolution there.
Yeah.
You know? So and there was a few people that I worked with that were basically like, do whatever. Awesome. You know, and they ended up, you actually saw, especially our character Axel, tons of growth in that character, and he was open to everything. You know, he was like, you want my character to kick some ass? You want him to get his ass kicked? All that. And he had both. He had plenty of both. You know, when we first introduced him, he's just very suave, you know, and obviously the character has a bit of an alcohol problem, just because every time you see him, he's pouring a drink, you know. But then it gets to the crux of the matter of, oh, his friends are in danger. He's either got to pull out all the stops or he's going to lose. But either way, he's going to try, you know. And he has a few moments where he's got the victory going on and a few where he didn't think that through. And by the end of episode 3, you see where he's landed, you know. Right. And there was actual growth, and you care about that type of stuff. And with what we're doing now with episode 4, you know, we have a lot of characters where we've got 4 mains where they all have some growing to do. They all have their own personal problem, and they're all pretty sure at some point it's going to go really bad for them. Like they know they're outgunned. Yeah. And one of the things that we did with that I think is making this last show a little funnier is we have there's a couple characters that are played by a husband and wife in real life, and their characters are not meshing. You know, and we did that on purpose, where the female character is basically just head over heels for this guy, and he has absolutely no interest whatsoever in her at all, because we wanted just the complete opposite of what their relationship is.
Sure.
And they play off each other so well because they're enjoying the frustrations that they're putting their characters through. But each of those characters is learning while this is happening about themselves and about interactions with each other and about the right and wrong ways to treat each other. And I think that comes out really well at the end on the culmination of what happens between those two characters, you know.
Yeah, that's great. The interplay between the characters throughout the series has been a part that I've really enjoyed. And perspective, there's this interesting thing, and I'm sure it's harder to track when you are the one so immersed in it, but there has been obviously a natural growth, but it seems like each additional episode you've brought in a distinct new kind of element. I remember specifically from the first to the second, there became more elaborate costumes. The way that you started to frame your shots and compositions changed. There was a one after that where it got much more like vignettes, like small shorts that really weren't part of the Tales of a Broken Reality narrative that we've kind of been talking about lately. But it was this cool opportunity for you to, I feel, get more experimental with some of the editing techniques and some.
Yeah, those are our fragment series. And
yes,
okay. All between 3 to 10 minute long mini episodes. And one of them was done to really let people go, look, take your camera, go out and shoot something, send me the footage, and we'll make it whatever it needs to be.
Oh, awesome.
And I also told people, I was like, this I don't know if this is good, bad, or indifferent, but I told them, tell the story you want to tell and don't worry about how it needs to be censored or whatever. I was like, if you want to tell a dark story, tell one. If you want to tell a completely goofy story, tell one. It does not have to feel at all like anything else that we've done. And we had some really different stuff come in, you know, and it was awesome. And that was actually when the project started to go really international, was when we had a man named Bonzart, who runs a thing on YouTube called Radio Retro Future, and his group, who has a really long name that I'm not going to try and pronounce because it'll be wrong, but hi, Bonzart. They came up with their story, and their story related to the first fragment. Because in our very first fragment, we had Scarlet, who's the head of the carnival, searching for Toto.
Yeah.
And she finds Toto. And of course, all we see is these dark glowing eyes, and we hear the growl, and you're like, what is that? So then the group with Radio Retro Future, they do their episode where they're trying to find M, you know, Aunt M, who's also one of the carnies, to get information on Dorothy and whatnot. And Toto shows up. And all you see at this point,
we were expecting.
Yeah. At this point, it's the shadow of Toto, and you could realize how big it is, and it eats a guy. And you're like, okay, but we're still unclear on Toto. So then a group from Connecticut did a story where they wanted to really polish off the Toto arc, you know, the side arc of Toto, the monstrous demon puppy from hell. And that's when we finally get to see him. But it took a whole year to get from point A of her finding him in a cave to suddenly we're at a video from the Netherlands to back to Connecticut, and they do the final video where the airship, their entire ship, gets destroyed by this dog thing.
Yeah.
And the guy jumps off the bow of the ship to try and kill it. You finally see what Toto actually looks like. And we cut to, did Toto eat the guy? Did they all die? Did some of them live? We don't know. It doesn't really matter at this point, you know. And if that group wants to do another story, we'll happily do it. That's up to them, you know.
Yeah, that's really interesting the way that it played out. And I remember one of the first times that it dawned on me, not like that you made it or anything per se, but just the idea that like, wow, this thing that Bryan created in his mind has taken on a life of its own. And now there are creators coming in and writing their own stories for it, directing their own episodes of it. And when I saw that been incubating within you was now being, you know, expanded upon, and this universe was being built out by other people, that's when I was like, wow, you know, going from where we originally talked to having that kind of experience for you, it had to be pretty damn gratifying, I'd imagine, right?
Very much so. I will put it this way. I am, even though the 4th episode isn't done yet, and I'm going to finish it, it takes a while, but I'm satisfied. I'm happy, you know, and that is why when the 4th episode is done, as far as for me, the project is going to be done at that point, as far as what I'm producing. Now, there are other groups who are going to continue to do TBR stories, and I will edit those for them. If they want to do the editing,
even better.
But that is all dependent on what they want to do and what effort they want to put into it. But I'm at the stage where now that I have a real career now, and a job where I'm very focused on that, and the 3 children, and doing all, with 3 kids, there's always something going on, and I still love steampunk and all that, but I just feel like I'm at the point in my life where worrying about, what con I can get to or where I can do a showing, is not necessarily the priority in my life,
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that because you had mentioned that this is the last episode, and I didn't know if that was a decision that you were making to pursue other things. And I have a feeling, just because I myself am a creative person, that it'll manifest itself in other ways, even if you do step away from it for a little bit. But
well, yeah, I'm still going to do some video work and things like that. I've got other short stories in my head. But this story has been so big, and it's basically eaten my life for so long.
Yeah, sure.
That it's time for me to wrap it up in its bow, let people watch it, and then put that nail in the coffin and be like, there, I've done that one.
And you accomplished it. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot to say about that. So that's not the only thing that you've been involved with, though, because I actually was able to check out a Nostalgia Brawl episode. I don't know that you guys have a bunch of them, but what I saw, I really enjoyed. So you want to tell the folks a little bit about that, or is that something we're kind of keeping under wraps for right now?
No, I can totally talk about it. It's just it's further away from hitting public view at this point right now, because there's a lot to do with it, because then it's not me setting up a camera and telling people to act. It's me keyframe editing a lot.
Yeah.
Because that first episode, that bit that you saw, was just some creative editing of splicing things together. But what we envision Nostalgia Brawl to actually be is more original artwork that is going to need to be edited. For a lot for legal reasons, but also just so it'll look a little different, But that is me and my buddy Chris, and again, we both in the middle of making Nostalgia Brawl found ourselves both suddenly full-time employed, and we were going, oh, this has to be kind of backburnered for a little bit, but we actually spoke today on our game plan for keeping it going, so that'll be good. And then we're going to invite other people in to do like little guest spots if they have a character they want to bring into it. But it's basically characters from the 80s and 90s that we grew up with as kids, and we pit them against each other, much like several shows that are out there on YouTube that do, either it's superheroes fighting superheroes or who would win this or whatever. But we thought it would be important and cute and obnoxious if we did really obscure characters. For instance, most people have probably not thought about a death battle with Gizmo Duck.
Fair.
We're going to do one of those, So,
yeah.
We're going to make sure that there's no main characters, really. We might do one of those every now and then, but it's going to be those characters that you go, oh, I remember that guy, but not, well, of course I remember that guy. Like, oh yeah, that side character that I saw that one time, in that one show forever ago. Oh yeah, him. We're going to do it that way.
Yeah, and I think the concept is great. I like the format of it. Just for a little bit of perspective, I know it's inside baseball for us, but how long would it take for you to edit a 10-minute episode of Nostalgia Brawl? Just ballpark.
Like just start to finish? If I had it? Okay. Doing the animations, one episode of Nostalgia Brawl would probably take me 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a lot of work that goes into these little YouTube videos that people put their time and effort into. So, when you said the thing about the full-time jobs, it's something that I've thought about often. And I've got a lot of friends who they work 9 to 5. They work more hours than that. They're nurses or they may be teachers, and they don't have a lot of extra time to pursue these things that they're passionate about for personal growth. Some people, they work their jobs, they provide for their family, they take care of their house and the utilities, and that's enough for them. Art as being something that's a little bit frivolous, or maybe something that's only afforded to people who have the luxury of extra time. And when I started my YouTube channel, I was dealing with depression a lot. I lost my father a couple of years previous to that and just wasn't coping super well. I had money coming in, but wasn't working full time. And I had a whole lot of drive. I had a whole lot of motivation. And that's what I put all of my focus and all of my energy into. And then once you do start working, you get home. And if like I work a job where I do audio engineering, when I get home, I don't always want to edit, like what I've been doing all day. So, I mean, how do we reconcile that? Do you think that there is, a way to succeed and put 100% forward while still trying to balance real life? Or do you think that you do need to have some sort of safety net and to actually be able to put in 100 hours a week into this thing that you're dedicated? Or can you have it both ways?
I think it is all about motivation. It is all about motivation and respect for what your family is expecting from you. For instance, I've got my priorities that have to be met first. The kids will be taken care of first and foremost because they are totally dependent on what we do for them, what we provide, and all that. Once that's taken care of, the other thing that makes it easy is my kids like to participate in the creation of stuff. Awesome. That makes it 100 times easier to get stuff done, because then you're not telling them, you go do this while I go do this. You're saying, let's go do this. Makes it a lot easier. So there are times where they'll sit in on just while I'm editing, just to watch and learn how to do it, because they think it's interesting. We just talk about stuff, and it's actually more family time that way. But, they also say, if you really care about something, you will get it done. If you just kind of like it, it may go to the wayside. If you're passionate about the art that you want to create, you will find the time. Like you say, occasionally you just want to take a day off, but there's times I just want to take a day off from everything. And, I'm like, I don't want to go hang out with friends all the time. And other times I can't wait to go hang out with friends. Mm-hmm. It's the same with doing art. Now I get paid to go and do art 8 hours a day at work. And on days where that's a whole lot of video work, I probably won't do as much at home. But on days when it's just graphics, I've probably still got it in me when I get home, to do some nonlinear stuff. So It just kind of, it's okay to put in the time, and it's okay to take a step back and breathe every now and then, because that's healthy. You need to. It also helps you look at your project and grow with it and do it differently, because art, like anything else, can become so routine that you lose what was magical about it.
Absolutely. Yeah, well said.
So I think taking breaks is absolutely important. That's also why, it's going to be close to about 2 to 2.5 years from start to finish for this last episode. Now, keep in mind, that's more than a year has already been in it, but
yeah.
By the time it's done, it will have been that long, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be done next week,
So just, I don't know if you've even sat and pondered it yet. If you were to come back, a year, 2 years, 3 years, completely refreshed, and you were just totally on fire for it at that moment, do you have an idea of the project that you would like to do, or you just haven't, it hasn't processed in your brain yet?
Oh, well, I've already, it's funny you asked that.
Okay.
I already started writing the next short film that I want to do this afternoon, actually. And it's called Lighthouse Incorporated. I actually made a little Facebook post about it earlier today, that it came out of a daydream, which is how all of my projects come out. But after the 4th episode, I'm probably going to focus on the whatever videos my daughter wants to do, whether they're short little things or she wants to do full episodes of stuff, just stuff that's easier for us to just do family style, Yeah. And my middle son, Magnus, is old enough now that he can start getting in on that a little bit, I have decided, though, that steampunk is really hard to do because it is so period.
Understand? Yeah.
It's so Victorian, and finding the right backdrops and the right locations and the right outfits and people who talk the right way, all that kind of stuff. That adds a whole other layer of difficult. And we've been really blessed here because there's a small little town called the Silt Historical Park that has all of these old buildings that are perfect for what we're doing. But there's only so many buildings that you can use so many times. You know what I mean? So our stuff going on for future endeavors will probably not be near as period sensitive.
It's understandable. Yeah, just from a logistical standpoint. Like I had mentioned earlier, the wardrobe, the costumes, all of that stuff may come with the cast members. That doesn't necessarily mean that the authentic Victorian accent comes in with it. It doesn't mean that you can just go down to the corner and rent a horse and carriage or something like that, So I definitely can understand the challenges of that. And honestly, I got to commend you for a lot of the locations that you guys did find and the way that you were able to take not a lot and turn it into something very convincing, like the interiors of some of the airship shots that I just thought were really inventive ways of handling those situations,
Oh, wait till you see. We found. I've always wanted to do one, and it's always been a part of my character and storytelling. Is my character has always had this really close connection to this train. It's called the Viewfinder, which is the name of like our website, and it's on the beginning of all of our videos. And I was at work, and I had to go up to this town called Craig, Colorado, to drop off some information and do some meet and greet type stuff, And I saw a train car, the Moffett train car. It's called the Marcia car, from one of the guys who helped with settling the railroad through Colorado. It was named after his daughter, and it was his entertainment car. So that meant it was roomy. And it had cooking and separate rooms and bathrooms and all this stuff in one train car instead of having, And I called them and I was like, hey, I'm this weird guy and I'm doing some filming and it's steampunk and there's going to be a little bit of violence and we would like it to happen inside your train. And they were like, okay, come on up.
What? That's awesome.
I was like, well, what kind of insurance do I need to have or anything? And she's like, oh, no, you're fine. What's the rental fee? Just list us in your credits. Okay.
That's fantastic.
We went up there and we shot everything we could possibly shoot in it in one day. Because that was the other caveat, was we had one shot, one day, get in, get out, because they have to use it for other stuff. But we got up there, we got it done, and I can't wait for you to see some of those scenes because you're going to be like, holy crap, where did they even shove the camera? Because trains have no room. There is no room for moving around in those things. But we made it happen.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I can't wait to see that location. That's fantastic. A lot of times for more inside baseball, if you were on a major production, they would typically have just a portion of a train car, almost like a sound stage, and the cameraman would be able to move around on the outside of that little small set that they built. What Bryan is talking about right now, everybody was actually in a physical space. So any of the camera work that we're seeing is him finding a way to position it in this very tight quarters. And yeah, that's awesome. So it was an impressive location, needless to say, huh?
It was wonderful. And what's really funny, there's a scene between two characters, a male character and a female character, and she is really trying to woo him. And if you listen real carefully, you can hear noises from a guy who is outside the train, who started having basically bad reactions to whatever drugs he had decided to drop. We realized halfway through shooting he had been sleeping underneath the train.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
So he starts, like, we eventually stopped because he started, like, yelling at the train and at the trees, and he started, like, yelling at himself and talking to the sky, and just lost it, just totally lost it. And we're like, what do we do? You know, we called the owners of the train, and they had already sent a police officer over there. And by the time the police officer gets over there, the guy decided that was the perfect time for him to use his own pants as a bathroom. It was, and then
that's amazing. Like, what are the chances the one day that you have to film and you're dealing with, well, I guess it was perspective though. Like, as crazy as you are, it could always be worse, right?
True.
All right. Well, before I let you run, we like to go through some dumb questions. It's always great to talk to you. Hopefully, we can do this again after the fourth and final episode drops. By the way, guys, check down in the description. I will, as always, provide you with links to everything that we are talking about here on this show. And I highly encourage that you guys show support to Bryan, because he's doing some great work. Bryan Oliver Photography. Go support his stuff. All right, Bryan, you ready for this?
Sure.
Weird habits. You got any?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man. So many weird habits.
Throw the weirdest one at me, or the weirdest one you feel comfortable saying.
Well, when I get to work in the mornings, I'm the first one in at work, and I always turn on the TV, and I have to watch Investigation Discovery, because they do murder mysteries in the morning. And one of my strange habits is every morning I turn around to whoever's the first one in the office, and we talk to them about what kind of murder mystery just happened, and I ask them if they can kind of, figure out, like a whodunit type thing. And there's several mornings where they'll just be like, don't care. And I'm like, I know.
Nothing starts your day off right like informative murder porn.
Murder
stuff. Man, I love that stuff. But after like 3 episodes, I just feel rotten. There's a show called Mindhunter on Netflix.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch it?
Oh, started it. Woo-hoo.
It's a good one. It's a good one. Okay. In honor of the show that we did yesterday, name a sexy, non-human character. It could be a robot, an alien. We'll even say it could be a cartoon character.
Nebula.
Nebula. All right. Good answer. Good answer. What is the dumbest superpower?
Dumbest superpower. Dumbest. That's a good. Oh, God. Dumbest superpower. I know a lot of people probably think like whatever it is Jubilee does, but no, I'm gonna go with Bouncing Boy. He just he's basically he's bouncing. Like, that's it. Like, I get Plastic Man, he can change his shape, but Bouncing Boy just no. I mean, yeah.
I hate that. I hate that power. I agree with you. The other one, I hate Mr. Fantastic also. If you had to be punched in the face by any 80s action star, who would it be?
80s action star. 80s action star.
We can go into the 90s if you want to get the Seagals and the Van Damme.
I don't think he's going to count as an action star, but he was in a couple action movies and has had some very actionable moments. But I was going to say Joe Pesci.
Is it because he's small and you think you could take a hit from him?
No, it's because I loved his character in the Lethal Weapon movies.
Oh yeah, he's fantastic. I am a big Joe Pesci from Goodfellas fan. Think he's
no.
funny.
I wouldn't let him have a baseball bat. That's death. But I would let him punch me in the face.
Who would you have play you? Who would you cast to play Bryan Oliver in your biopic?
What poor sap would want that job? Who would play me? a young and dashing Danny DeVito, just because we got the same hairline.
Wah, wah, wah.
I'm working on getting the same waistline. Yeah, I'm gonna go with him or a very relaxed Jeff Goldblum.
I like that. I like that one. What movie would work better as a musical?
Oh, you're not giving me an either or? Like
No. You tell me one movie that you just, if it had musical numbers in it, it would be even better.
I'm not going to say the first one that came to my mind because that's evil. Movie that would be
after, not air now.
Movie that would be better as a musical. I would say Tales of a Broken Reality.
Yeah. I could think it like a stage show.
But I think honest answer. I think the honest answer would be I think Logan would have made a great musical.
Yeah, a lot of pathos. We would have got to see Patrick Stewart do a musical number, which is something sorely lacking from Hollywood. Hugh Jackman, he's brilliant, so we know he could really put it on. And then I wonder, like, you know, if for a nonverbal Daphne Keane, how just a lot of impressive choreography, a lot of like slicing and dicing, red viscera everywhere.
Right.
What is your favorite game to play in the arcade as a youngster?
Oh, easy. That was Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Manhattan Project.
Good one. Good answer. Such a good multiplayer game.
So many quarters. So many quarters into that game.
Are aliens real?
Oh, absolutely. Totally.
Are ghosts real?
Oh, do you want my honest answer on that one? Okay. I think that spirits are real, but I don't think they're actually people who were alive, but I think they're spirits who knew enough about the people who were alive to convince us that they are the people who were alive.
Okay. Spirits as in, okay, like exactly what you said. They're not ghosts. They are spirits emulating ghosts. Yes. As a way of manipulating us, maybe?
I think so.
Okay. I dig it. I dig it. And I haven't got that answer before. I always appreciate that. And other than war, here's a heady one. Other than war, what would be a better way for nations to solve our conflicts and differences?
Have each leader alone either go in and boxing match and have them fight it out, because they're the ones mad at each other. It's not us. I don't hate anybody anywhere. That's the leaders who are so either that, or if they're not going to be physically violent, because chances are they can't handle actually fighting,
right?
Then at least Rock'em Sock'em Robots.
I love it. I love it. Those are the two answers I would give 100%. I do think that they should have to mano go in. You're right. They would never do that because they're cowards. They send people to fight wars for them. But like a Pacific Rim style battle royale, it's like a sporting event. We each bring in our big badass robots and like watch them smash each other. That would be cool. Yeah, I agree. And last question. I know this sounds like a cliched question, but seriously, will AI eventually, and not necessarily enslave the human race, but will artificial intelligence inherit the earth like we did from dinosaurs?
No. I think it will get close to that. But have you ever watched Life After People?
No.
Okay. Well, I think what will happen is after we're, whether it's Skynet or who knows what takes us out, if the AI is still running, it's only going to run for so long, though, until the machinery and the electronics and all that gives out to actual nature taken back over.
Interesting.
So, and I think machines will only run for so long without us either powering them or supplying the fuel or whatever. And then I think nature will take over.
That I like what you're going with that. In my mind, robots would eventually learn to or to learn to recreate. They would learn how to at least manufacture themselves. But eventually, even still, whatever it is that they ran on would have to
deplete. It would run out. It would run
right.
Now, I'm not going to give any sort of timeline on that because it could take forever, but I think eventually nature would win. I mean, and my reason for that is I know what longhorn cows are capable of, and that's just one set of things that if left unchecked and unhindered by man, nature would win. Nature would win.
Well, Bryan, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me, man.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. You guys, thank you for stopping by to check out this very special show. If you liked it, do me a favor, take a second to click that little thumbs up button. It really helps my fragile self-esteem. And if you want to help get the word out about this and all the other great content that's being highlighted, then all you got to do is share the video, visit Movies Are Terrible on Patreon, and check me out at Jeremy B. Terrible on Twitter. Bryan, where can they find you on social media?
It's Tales of a Broken Reality on Facebook, and then steamengineviewfinder.com for the website.
Stop by, tell him I said what's up, or tell him Jeremy sent you, and until next time, you be terrible.